Hi, I'm Mel.
And I'm Ro.
We're from Shame on Me.
And you're listening to KPFT Houston.
It's a little scary on Earth tonight. In all the darkness, it's kinda hard to see the light. We need more people with compassionate and fewer commandos. Stand up for what's right on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. No more animal rodeos. Standing up for animals is a different kind of fight. When corporations keep the truth far from our sight, but the ones who see the truth can't ever let it go. The truth is alive on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. An animal-free fandango. Climate chaos, a dogging planetary plight. Temperatures reaching annual record heights. If the world ends tomorrow, I'll see you in the afterglow. The postmortem's live on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. The One Health message in stereo. Rocket leaves right now. You've got a ticket for this flight. Did you think we'd let you leave alone? The stars are burning bright. Strap in tight, ready for takeoff. Ignition, here we go. It's Monday night and time for your Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World. Be your diamond low.
Heck yes! Vegan World Radio. We will be your hosts for this 1 hour, 90.1 FM in Houston, Space City, H-Town. My name is Skyjack Morgan, and my co-host is Dr. Crystal Heath.
And I'm confused. What is the last line of that song? Do you know what the last line is?
It's Monday night. It's time for Vegan World Radio.
Is that the last line? There's
I
like
thought so.
something, let love be your diamond glow or something.
Oh, yeah. Let night. That's like the lights, the stars are shining bright like diamond glow. I forget. I can't remember what I wrote, but
All right.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to need to see the lyrics because I don't think we made a little music video, but I don't know if the captions are right. So I just got to check on that.
The captions might be a little funky. I've got the
Yeah.
lyrics written down. I'm trying to learn how to play it on guitar properly because I think that'd be great to play on guitar when you get around the campfire in the summer. You know, summer's coming, Crystal. We've got lots of campfire stuff happening. I'm going to get my vegan marshmallows, make some s'mores.
And that is the song of the summer. So
It's a song of this, yes, indeed. Indeed it is. Plus, I had to put something in it about rocket ships because Houston is Space City. So I wanted like ignition. You've got a ticket on this rocket
that's your
ship.
Easter egg, your Taylor Swift. Why are they mentioning rocket ships? That's for the super fans to
That's
know
it. Yes, that's what it is.
why they mentioned rocket ships.
Yeah, and there's even something about like the postmortems on live on Vegan World Radio because of if I'll see you in the afterglow if the pandemic gets us, if the bird flu kills us all. That was for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So speaking of bird flu, I went with you to a slaughterhouse this week or last week. We're not going to mention where it is, but I went with you and we had some interesting conversations. I even got in a conversation with a slaughterhouse worker.
Went to a couple of slaughterhouses.
You're right. I'm thinking about the bird one, but yes.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to talk to at the cow slaughterhouse. I didn't get to talk to workers there, but I wanted to, and then when we came back around, they weren't there anymore. But next time we'll go up there. I'll talk with the guys that out there smoking cigarettes in front on their breaks. Just got to catch them at the right time, you know. We did talk to a guy. His name was Francisco. He'd worked at the slaughterhouse for 5 years, and I asked him, you know, how's work? Do you like the job? Stuff like that. And he said it's a little messy, but it's a living. I asked him if he's worried about the bird flu because he didn't have his mask on. He had a mask, but it was down like around his neck. But he was the guy hooking the birds and yanking them out of their cages and then hanging them on the shackle line. The shackle line being where they put the birds' ankles and hang them upside down so that they can go to the other side of the wall on these little conveyor belt kind of things, these chain belts. They go into an electric water bath, which is what stuns them. I think that's how that works, because I've seen the gas chambers for chickens and they don't usually hang them first. They usually keep them in their cages and they just lower their cages. Yeah. So I'm presuming on the other side of the wall, there's electric bath. And then on the other side, Francisco is moving. He says all he does is intake birds. So he doesn't do any of the slaughter work on the other side for 5 years. He also told me they're processing 9,200 a day. And in the winter, they process 16,000 birds a day. Yeah.
So did you yell at him and tell him he was a murderer and he should be jailed?
No, I didn't yell at him and tell him that he was a murderer and should be jailed. I'm not so excitable unless someone's kind of like pushing me. I'm the one invading his space. I'm the one asking him questions at his job when he's answering them really nice while he's working. When I first got into activism, it was a workers' rights protest that I went to. That was before I was vegan. One of my heroes was Cesar Chavez, and he was vegan, but he always told the story from the workers' point of view, which the workers are just as much a victim in this system as so many others.
But the animals are more of a victim, right, than the workers?
It's hard to argue with those numbers. I get what you mean, but the numbers on the animal side are just astronomical. They're unfathomable. And so, I mean, how do you answer that question? Can we measure suffering? Can we compare each other's suffering? Isn't
possible? It important to maintain hierarchy? So like,
right.
Clearly the animals are worse off. So therefore more of our compassion should go to the animals than the workers, right?
Well, it's interesting that you say that when you say the animals are worse off. This is where I think the flaw in logic happens, because what we're asserting as vegans is that every individual deserves dignity and respect. But when we say the animals, we are kind of lumping them all in one, or the workers. But I didn't talk to the workers. I talked to Francisco, and Francisco told me what his experience was. I consider each individual. I can't count up all the individuals and say, well, they're suffering more. You know what I mean? Each individual is suffering. And if you concentrate on these massive numbers of 300 million pigs, 10 billion chickens killed, does that mean that those numbers negate the suffering of the worker who are suffering under the same system that the animals are? I don't think so.
Well, if we shamed all the workers, nobody would want the job, right? And then it would all shut down. They would be ashamed to work there. So that would solve the problem, right?
I have talked with many people who work in slaughterhouses over the years, and I've talked with a few in this last week with you. And I don't know. I don't think that shaming them, they all seem a little bit like, well, you got a better job for me, I'll do it. A lot of them are just, they look at it just like warehouse work. We have objectified these animals. We have I'm trying to come up with a word. Like, I listened to someone on Democracy Now! Say, Miss Goodman, she said depersonalize. I don't think that's the word but
depersonalize kind of makes sense because we want animals to be considered people. So depersonalize that.
I would say depersonize, because when I think I've personalized my water bottle by putting a World Radio sticker on it, I've personalized it. So if I depersonalize it, I feel like that's taking off a sticker. But depersonify, depersonize, we've done that to animals, and so they're part of that. And then we depersonize the worker too, which is an age-old problem. It's because of the system. I don't know. What do you think, Crystal? I mean, do you think we should shame them into?
Of course, I'm against the shaming that some activists do, and the way that they target the workers, and they'll get videos of these workers doing horrible things because these workers have, it's a system that forces you to not care about animals to get the job done. And been led to believe that they're doing difficult but necessary work. And
not only necessary because of the story they've been told to feed America and all this stuff, but the story that they're telling themselves that I have to have a job in order to feed my family, in order to have a car in America and do all the things you need to do. But I also understand the activist who wants to hate the sinner and not the sin. Christ says to hate the sin but not the sinner, and I think that's an important distinction that even ancient religions understand, and we need to kind of embody that too. You can't demonize any of us who prostitute ourselves under a capitalist system. You demonize the whole system, don't you?
The corporate interests love it when we demonize an individual worker, when we catch them on camera doing something bad. Because then the corporations can go, oh, thank you so much for finding that bad apple, and we'll kick them out. Now the problem is solved. You can go on consuming animal protein. You're right. As you always did.
You're absolutely right.
It's all good.
Yeah, you're right. The corporation loves that because we're using their language, right? Like, oh, it's not the corporation. We treat all of our people like family, and even our animals, we love them like family. It's just one bad apple, and don't you worry. We've swiftly dealt with him or her.
Yeah, I've even talked to a famous animal behaviorist about this phenomenon, and I'm like, this is horrible things to slaughterhouse workers, and they end up, being numb to violence and having psychological distress and all of these problems, drug and alcohol abuse. And this person's basically like, well, we need to find the right workers for this job. And there are workers who do it just fine and don't have those issues and don't beat the animals. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. Like,
no.
There's always the assumption that there's certain people who are cut out for this, and there's certain people who are not. And it's like, no, if you were these people, you lived their lives and had their experiences, you would do the exact same thing that we're doing. And we're creating a system that normalizes people to violence and puts them in situations where they suffer from psychological distress.
They are injuring themselves at a higher rate than most other professions as well. 5.4% of slaughterhouse workers experienced job-related injuries or illnesses in 2015, high injury rates, frequent amputations, severe injuries because of the machinery they're working around. People forget, this is the spear's end of a giant agricultural complex. Agricultural jobs are dangerous. They're repetitive. They're all of the things that whittle you down. I think Francisco, he looked like he might have been 60, but he's probably 25.
Well, it'd be nice to know his actual age.
I asked him when he came to America, and he said it was 1984.
Oh, interesting. So he wasn't 25.
No, he wasn't 25. I'm just joking. But now that the speed limits have been erased from the slaughterhouse floors, since they used to limit the number of animals that they could process in any given hour, just like a speed limit on the highway, they would have a number of animals that could do.
To be clear, pig slaughter lines are allowed to process 1,106 hogs per hour, or roughly one every 3.2 seconds. And the USDA plans to remove the maximum speed limit, allowing facilities to operate at speeds they deem appropriate. For poultry operations, they are allowed to slaughter up to 140 birds per minute. And the new limit is 175 birds per minute, an increase of 35 birds per minute. So
absolutely. And what's interesting about this, when we tend to concentrate on the animals, and I think that's important because they are victims. But when you hear about the speed limits being increased or eliminated, the workers and their advocates, and when they are union, they have union reps, they're saying they can't do it. They're harming themselves. I read an article about a guy who harmed himself, and then he still didn't see a doctor for 10 years because their access to health care is kind of limited. And so 10 years later, he's crippled himself because of it. It's really horrible.
This article from the Economic Policy Institute from March 30th, 2023 says an average of 27 workers a day suffer amputation or hospitalization, according to new OSHA data from 29 states.
27 workers suffer amputation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a day. That's a crazy number. That number's in America, 27 workers a day. That could be your thumb or your whole arm, I suppose, when you just say amputations. But this is not okay. I fear for these people. 81% of poultry workers and 46% of pork workers are at high risk of musculoskeletal disorders due to the repetitive tasks that I was talking about. 81%, says the USDA. So this is just, it's a lot of times I compare it to, because I used to live in a town in Virginia that was near a prison called Craigsville Prison, and there are these towns in America that just kind of survive. They've got higher rates of domestic abuse, higher rates of alcoholism, substance abuse of various kinds, psychological distress, suicide, all of these things. I compare that because it seems like a very unnatural thing to work in a prison to me. It just seems just against your own humanity, and you have to overcome. I feel like that's kind of what slaughterhouse workers are going through, but it's even worse because they're cutting off pieces of themselves by accident, and they're doing these repetitive tasks like machine men that you can't do all day. No one is cut out to kill for 8 hours a day.
Absolutely not. Yeah. That's like, not natural in any.
No,
it's not natural.
No. And it's like, you hear about, I'm just going to say it, Joe Rogan, he likes to go out and kill animals. And then he'll say, well, because I like to go out and kill animals, it's natural. He's using these exploding bow and arrow tips and he's doing these, but then he'll defend McDonald's because of that experience. And it's like, neither are natural, man. And if you had to do that for 8 hours a day, it would drive you crazy. Even if it, and when it's a whole ceremony of like going hunting and you like track down one animal that you shoot over 3 days or however long it takes. It's like a weekend. That's
usually, different thing than just being forced to kill for 8 hours a day, nonstop at these really fast paced line speeds.
Elbow to elbow with your fellow meat packers,
Yeah. This Sentient Media article says slaughterhouse employees are 4 times more likely to suffer from clinical depression than the general public. So
yeah, and that's exactly okay. Someone's suffering for this is what I mean. Like the animal rights activist. I'm an animal rights activist. I have been known to yell in a megaphone. I do that at corporations. I feel like this is a keyboard warrior thing because everyone I know that's out in the streets with megaphones, they're yelling at Louis Vuitton. They're yelling at Christian Dior. They're not yelling at the people working at those places, and they're not yelling at the people working in the slaughterhouses. They're victims too. They're already suffering from clinical depression. Why would I yell at a slaughterhouse worker? And so when I see these people who, frankly, I think aren't the ones that are out there with me in the megaphone, they don't come with me. There are people on YouTube comments saying, oh, those people, they should be put into the gas chambers. They should be slaughtered or whatever. These horrible things they say about people who are suffering. I don't know how.
And it sucks because we get looped in with them and people assume, oh, those are what animal rights activists are like. These people who are so morally superior in shaming these poor workers who are doing this difficult work and suffering. And I would just like to say, no, we do not consider them animal rights activists because real animal rights activists defend human beings because humans are animals too. So
good point. I also, when you're talking about strategies and tactics, and you can agree or disagree, and you and I have disagreed on different tactics and strategies over the time we've known each other. I think throughout the years we change how our activism looks. I think we both changed that over the years, but I couldn't even imagine going to a slaughterhouse with a megaphone and screaming at people. I would never do that, ever. But I would go to JBS corporate headquarters and do it. I totally would go yell at that CEO and just make a ruckus at the office building because those are the people in charge. I would definitely go to the CEO of JBS in Brazil. I'd probably get my head chopped off. I don't know. I maybe JBS has a United States corporate office that could be protested. But I wouldn't do it at the slaughterhouse. That just seems
I think
to me.
What we're doing at slaughterhouses is really powerful, and it's led to a lot of really interesting conversations with workers and members of the public. We're just going there and filming the animals.
People came up to us and talk, and we have a couple of those that you've actually edited together a little bit. So you want to play the first one?
First clip, is somebody who came up and talked to me.
Just taking pictures.
Oh, the poultry?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, y'all vegetarian?
What?
You a vegetarian?
I'm vegan.
That's what I'm trying to be.
Do it.
Last night I ate me some black bean burger.
Yeah, it's good.
It was pretty good. Though. That was the first time trying it, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, tofu. Yeah, beans, salads. It's hummus.
Yeah,
it's all good stuff.
I'm trying to eat like that.
Yeah. Why are you trying to eat like?
I don't eat no more beef, but I ain't pork.
Yeah. What made you want to not eat?
Because it ain't healthy for you.
Yeah.
It ain't healthy for you.
That was great.
And it's not healthy.
I loved listening to you. I normally you don't even like using the word vegan, so it's so funny when she says I'm trying to be vegan, and you're like, do it. You sounded so
I'm not about
energetic.
There forcing, like, this is just I wasn't planning on talking to anybody.
Yeah.
So it's just very off the cuff. I never tell people to go vegan. That's not my strategy, because I think it's been far more effective to just talk about what I'm doing. Obviously, she was seeing what I was doing, and that inspires people to follow their conscience. That's the path I want to go to too. She embodied that. So I was just cheering her on. It's much better than shaming people and telling them
100%.
They're part of the problem. That's not the answer.
I
could have been like, why are you vegetarian? Don't you know eggs and dairy harm animals too? That wouldn't have worked.
No, it is nice that she was. I mean, you kind of got a layup, but you got to be in the spot. People think that you get a layup by standing around. No, you got a layup for being in the right place and putting yourself out there in front of a slaughterhouse so that a person had the gumption to walk up to you and be like, what are you guys taking pictures of? And she said the poultry, which is amazing. And that she's trying to be vegan. I mean, I just loved it. I love that interaction so much, because I
could
was
have been like, just trying. Why don't you? I know. I just said do it. But like a cheering her on. You know, instead of like, why haven't you already? Like, what's wrong with you? I don't know.
My line is usually, what's holding you back? Usually I say, what's holding you back? Or I'll say, what would you need today to go vegan tomorrow? I'll say stuff like that. Oh, just so you know, as long as you're not vegan, you're funding this.
Which isn't true.
It's not true, yeah.
Because vegans are funding this too.
Well, every taxpayer is. Every taxpayer is funding it. We have to dismantle this hierarchy, this system of oppression in order to get.
They really should highlight how they've denied our ability to choose which companies we support. Everybody thinks, well, I only buy humanely raised local meat. Well, no, you're still paying for the worst.
Before we play the next clip, I wanted to, you just made me think, because on the same trip, it was such a blur. We did so much, and we also visited some dairies. Some of them are hard to look at, and nothing to diminish there. But then we went to some of the smaller ones, and we found a pile of dead calves and a big mama cow on the road. A pile of them, four calves and a mama. And right next to it was a coop with ducks and chickens roaming kind of in and out. They had a little, the door was open, they can roam right next to them. And it's like, bird flu's real. There was an outbreak near there. No biosecurity whatsoever. And it's just shocking to me. And people think like, oh, well, the small farms are better. No, they're often far worse.
Yeah, I think so. That's one thing where veterinarians have it right. Just because it's small doesn't mean it's a good facility. The intensive facilities are often better. And yeah, that can be true because they're more corporatized in a lot of ways.
Funded.
That doesn't mean there's not still atrocities happening.
No, of course, unspeakable atrocities happening, but they also have the money for a vet.
Yeah.
So, the second one, you want to tee it up? We'll play that one.
So this was a neighbor who lived near the beef slaughterhouse that we went to. So this is clip 2.
Clip 2, let's do it.
How long have you lived around here?
Like 39 years.
39 years, awesome.
Yeah.
So you've seen this place change over the years. Has anything changed?
I would say probably more cows. Yeah, definitely more cows. The size has always been the same. It hasn't grown or anything. It's been about the same size since back in the day.
Do you know people that work here?
Yeah, I had a couple buddies that worked here. They said it was pretty awful. They quit within a matter of a week or two or something like that. It was too much for them.
Well, is it good pay? What attracts people to the job?
Probably just because they're always hiring because no one wants to do the job, I guess, So
if you need money fast, you go here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right there, it was a lot like what Francisco told me when I asked him why he does this. He said, easy money. It's easy money. What am I going to do? Easy money for 5 years. And then he even pointed, he had chicken poop on his arm. And he said, sometimes it's a little nasty, a little messy, but it's easy money. And that's exactly what, I think his name was Alex, the guy that we just heard. And he lived near the cow slaughterhouse. And when I asked him, because he was telling me about his buddies who used to work there and someone got drunk and let the cows free and stuff.
Yeah. I would love to hear that story. We got his number, so maybe we'll talk to him some more. I think these corporations, they'll always find somebody to buy their products, and they'll always find somebody to exploit to work there. They'll always be able to market their products as long as this system exists. And so that's why we need to shut down the whole system, not rely on workers just not working there or people just not consuming the food. This is how we address all of these sorts of issues.
I've been listening to a lot about the nature of propaganda, and it's always been something that's been interesting to me. But because of the current political situation, I've been reading about it and listening to more about that, and how propaganda is something that we always think happens in somebody else's country, but it's happening right here. We call it marketing, and it's like, yeah, we shouldn't even allow everyone wants to ban slaughter, ban the marketing. We did it with cigarettes. Why are you allowed to advertise a class 4 carcinogen within 100 yards of a school? Like, you shouldn't be able to advertise bacon or milk or dairy milk anywhere near a school. You couldn't do it with cigarettes. That's where they started with it. Remember that when they stopped allowing cartoon characters to sell? Remember Joe Camel and all of that? They made that, the Marlboro Man, they made that illegal. And I was shocked when I went to Germany, and before the movies, they would play a preview of guys, like a cinematic motion picture of guys smoking cigarettes, and it was Marlboro Man. I never seen that because they'd already banned it in America. And look at this. Now you go most places in the world, and cigarettes, they're still around, but they're not the cool thing they used to be,
And if you are just joining the program, you are listening to Vegan World Radio here on Houston's own KPFT 90.1 FM, streaming at kpft.org online.
Yeah, kpft.org. And you did nail it. And you could watch it later if you missed it, which is great. Maybe you missed the first half hour and you want to catch up with what Crystal and I have been talking about. You can do that at kpft.org.
So we also talked to a woman who goes to the place frequently and has a storage shed, and she came up to us very excited and wanted to share her story. So let's play clip 3, please.
Yeah, they had meat up in like the ceiling area on top of some spans and stuff. When they're emptying out all the bones and the blood and the skin, it really smells really, really bad, like death. When it's really hot, then it is much worse. There's always like flocks of birds over there. One day they had the cows out in this pen, and they were like stabbing them to get them to move. They were like stabbing them to get them to move. I didn't see the dead cow, but when we came through, there was just piles of bones that they were dumping over that way. And then they had these big vats that they're taking them off the ground and putting them in the vat, and I don't know what they're doing with them. Yeah, I can't stand this place personally, just get rid of it. And it's made me actually want to go vegan. I think there's got to be a better way. I actually barely ever eat beef. Really? Yeah, like very rare. And like I'm starting to go towards more of the plant-based meat products, the near meat.
Yeah, I mean, it tastes the same.
Yeah, it does. And it's actually more filling than regular beef. It's got to take a psychological toll.
Yeah, it's not normal to sit there and kill animals for 8 hours a day.
I wouldn't be able to work in a place like that at all. I used to live in Iowa, and my ex-husband worked in a pig killing factory. Yeah. And I would walk up there to go, bring him his lunch and whatever, and I would see the pigs, and those pigs were very afraid. They knew what was going to happen. They had tears and everything. And I would try to feed them little snacks and stuff. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, guys. I feel bad for you. I wish I could let you go. Yep. The cows and the pigs, they know what's going to happen. They know it. They can sense it. Yep. And they get so afraid. And it kills me to know that,
She was great to talk to as well. I mean, she was the neighbor, lived nearby, and she had a storage unit right next to the slaughterhouse. And she said in the summer, it just stinks to high heaven, it's coming up. And and some of the cows were still alive in their little mini stockyard, but what she described, the giant cardboard boxes filled with joints and skulls and basically bones and a little bit of flesh stuck onto them, and they lined the cardboard with plastic and they shipped them off on trucks to presumably to a rendering plant of some kind.
Yeah.
And it's hard to look at. I mean, it's gore.
And she's just expressing a very natural response. And a lot of the comments that I got on that YouTube video were people from the industry, obviously, like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. They were using cattle prods, so uneducated. You just show your ignorance. And it's like, that's why they want to keep it secret. They're like, only people who have been normalized and educated to this should be allowed to see this. Otherwise, uneducated people who don't know what they're talking about are going to take it out of context. But doesn't that tell us something? Like, there's something wrong with this system when you have to hide it from people because you're worried about what the reaction might be by just a casual observer.
Yes. Right. Just a casual observer saying that she probably meant poked rather than stabbed. I mean, I don't think that they were, but I mean, I've seen animals taken off of trucks by many different manners. They've poked them. They've used flags to scare them. They've used paddles, all sorts of stuff. They've pulled them out with rope. In fact, we saw one poor cow that had a rope tied around her ankle, and she was dead in the road because presumably she wasn't able or willing to come off the truck. So they tried to drag her off, and they ended up killing her right there.
Yeah,
so,
you're not allowed to slaughter animals who can't walk on their own. She was killed and just left kind of there in the parking lot where I got photos of that and photos of them picking her up with a forklift and dragging her off. There was another cow in the pen behind that who was very severely lame, limping on 3 legs. But, since that one can walk, she can walk to slaughter. Who knows what's wrong with her leg? And these are all dairy cows. This is a beef facility, but these are all dairy cows. And my concern is how many of these cows are being culled because they didn't return to milk because they were infected with bird flu. And that's why we were there investigating, looking for signs of bird flu in these dairy cows. And as far as we know, they're not really doing enough testing of the beef. And we know that cats have died from eating raw food that was infected with H5N1. Are these dairy cows going to raw cat food that could potentially infect and kill cats? Is this a public health risk in other ways? If you get this meat and you don't cook it thoroughly and you eat it, could you potentially get bird flu?
I guess we should also mention that there were, again, tons of wild birds present at this slaughterhouse on the power lines over it in
Which
the
you can hear
stockyard
in the
mingling. Yeah, you can hear it.
All the birds.
And Billy was her name. And what's funny is that when she is talking about her casual observing, like, she's using the vocabulary that we have because she isn't a slaughterhouse worker. And so then for people to go, she doesn't know what she's talking about, you're showing your ignorance. Yeah, exactly. A lot of us are ignorant about this, and we're about transparency and letting people know this is what it looks like. Maybe you need to put glass walls on these slaughterhouses.
Yeah. Well, I think back in the day, I wrote an article for Vox about the Victorian era activists and how that was kind of the golden age of vegetarianism, which might equate to veganism. They just called it vegetarianism. But things were more open. You could see what was happening to animals as a Victorian era person. It wasn't hidden away. And I think that led a lot of people to be highly concerned about the plight of animals. And that's why there were so many more vegetarians. And George Bernard Shaw, the famous Irish playwright, famously said he doesn't know anybody who eats meat anymore. Yeah. And then everything changed after World War I.
Right. After World War I, when you had these great awakenings and the dawn of the industrial age, even people like Friedrich Nietzsche, he and Wagner had conversations about animal exploitation. that they both documented in their journals. Later on, Wagner wouldn't serve animals when he had his parties. Kind of interesting. They called Nietzsche a vegetable addict. They didn't have the word vegan. They just had these other things they would call each other. But I think that anytime you have these big motion, like it's just like the French Revolution, they had all these people talking about new stuff and new ideas, and eventually they're coming up with a metric system. You know what I mean? Like these kind of watershed moments. Do you think maybe we're on the precipice of one? I'd like to think so. I hope so.
Yeah. So I would kind of like to, I don't know how you feel about playing this last clip. It's very long, and I don't think we should just play it all in one thing. Maybe we could play, what do you think about playing like a minute of it, and then we can talk about what happened?
Yeah. What do you think, Blue? Can you hook us up?
That's
sounds good.
Can I help you?
No, we don't need any help. We're just looking.
Is there a reason why you guys are taking photographs of the area?
We're doing a media story on it. We're independent
You guys
journalists.
are not allowed. There's no pictures allowed here.
We're on public
no
land,
pictures
man.
allowed.
Doesn't matter. You're taking private property stuff.
So
That's
there's
It
no,
doesn't matter.
you can't take pictures of
Do
private.
you have a business card?
We're not giving you a business card, man. Do you have a business card?
You know where I'm working at.
I don't know who you are. You haven't identified
It
yourself,
doesn't
sir. It does matter a lot, actually.
You're taking pictures of private property.
That's totally within my right, my First Amendment right, sir. Yes, it is.
Okay, I know your First Amendments. Are you trying to
Sir,
do all this,
I've been here many times. I've talked to your GM. I've talked with him.
Yesterday as well.
Okay, I wasn't here yesterday, but that's okay. I've talked with him a few
You
times.
take pictures of this area, so.
Okay, well, we can go.
You're not. What are you doing here? You're not allowed to detain us either.
I'm
I don't know
not
what you're.
detaining you. I'm just asking you to stop taking pictures of private property.
We'll continue to exercise our rights in the way we.
and we'll just like explain what's happening here. So we pulled up to this egg laying facility where we know that they depopulated birds back in November. And we've gone by this place periodically just to see how the cleanup is happening. So we've been by several times at this point. We go every few weeks. And I've taken photos of workers cleaning up without wearing proper PPE. And this time, usually they leave us alone. You've talked to them before. I've never talked to them. I usually if I'm alone and I see somebody driving, I just leave because I've been harassed, I've been chased, and I just don't want to deal with these people. So
yeah, the first time they came up to me was because I got out of the car and I was taking pictures of the workers cleaning without PPE because that was right after their big depopulation. So this one was a little bit different because this guy came up and he blocked us in with his truck, and he was just a very different vibe than before. The guys before came up and they had logos on them. They were kind of a little more curious. The manager came out and it was a bit more slower and calmer. But this guy coming, you're not allowed to be here. I just was like, you're not allowed to take those pictures. Yeah, we are. You're allowed to do that from public property.
Yeah, we weren't trespassing or anything. And what we did see, we saw workers carrying out black bags, which there was one building that was different than the others. It was sealed up, and we think that they have birds in there, that they're repopulating the facility, this one building with birds. But we also think that some birds are dying in that facility, and the workers are carrying out the bags of dead bodies and throwing them in the dumpster. And so we got footage of that. Blue, do you want to continue playing for another minute? And we'll see if we get to that part.
For sure, no problem.
You sit fit. In the meantime, this isn't your jurisdiction or anything, man. I'm not going to be strong-armed or bullied.
I'm not a police officer, obviously.
Well, you haven't identified yourself.
I don't need to.
Well, you do if you're gonna come out here and tell me what to do, don't you?
Again, it's like me going to your house and taking pictures of your house or something.
Sir, when you're at someone's house, you don't have the right because they have a reasonable expectation of privacy. I'm not invading your privacy. You don't live here. You don't own this place. I'm not invading your privacy. I wasn't taking pictures of you. I'm taking pictures of buildings on the right side of the fence.
Is there a reason why?
I'll tell you if you'd like.
This is a public health.
Let's bring it down, okay? Because we're very interested in what's happening with the bird flu. We're very interested in that. It keeps.
What do you guys work for?
We're independent journalists.
Do you have a badge?
I'm a veterinarian. I'm sorry?
I'm a veterinarian and a private citizen.
What does taking pictures of a building have to do with birds? There's no birds.
Are there no birds in these buildings?
That's not for me to answer.
Oh, then we're going
There's
to
no
take
birds
pictures.
in
We're
that
looking
first
around.
building there.
I mean, I don't see a chicken standing anywhere out there, so...
We know that this area has had outbreaks. We go all over the Central Valley. Just keep tabs on what's going on with the bird flu outbreak. It's your right as a citizen. It's my right as a citizen. It's a public health issue, and we're not invading anybody's privacy, and we're also not trespassing.
Yeah, I know I've seen you here a couple times.
We've been here a couple times.
Yeah. I've seen your vehicle here a couple times, and I've seen you guys taking pictures.
Yeah.
So
have we disturbed anybody?
I just want to know. Again,
Okay.
if you want to talk to somebody, there's people right here that you're more than welcome to step out and go talk to them.
I'd rather not step out if you're going to be all aggressive with your parking.
I'm not being aggressive at any point in time. Okay.
Look how you're parked, man.
Yes.
That's not aggressive.
And because I know that I pass here before, and every time that somebody pulls up, you guys will pull out and try to take off again.
I've actually gotten out of the car and talked to y'all, but I mean, there's no reason.
You want to go in? I'm not going to.
You guys, there's no reason to talk to any of you because you won't answer any questions.
So yeah, things got a little heated there.
In my defense, now that I'm hearing it again, I did call him sir. I did say, let's take this down. Now that I'm hearing it, I don't feel so bad because I was trying to be assertive, but still maintain some composure. I don't know. And I did feel it getting heated. I did try to bring it down, but maybe not quickly enough in hindsight.
You know me, I'm like super sensitive to conflict and I don't like it.
Yeah, and I'm super sensitive to bullies. And I know that but luckily you were there to talk to the management. But to describe to everybody what we saw people in PPE coming out of the one giant facility carrying black bags, each one with a chicken-sized object inside the black bag.
I think there were multiple chickens in each bag.
And they were dumping them into a blue container that seemed to be the kind that you could seal, and it was different from all the other containers on the property. So there was certainly something going on, and we had every right to be there. When management came out, they didn't tell us. They always say, check the website, check the website. I mean, the whole reason why we're out here is because you're not honest with the public. But there's another thing that you said that I want to incorporate next time I talk to these guys that I've been thinking a lot about. You said, well, we know that this company's also received $10 million in taxpayer funds, and so we have the right in the name of transparency to, as taxpayers, to be here. And man, I love that one. I love that when you said that, because I think about that all the time, how much of my tax dollars are going to these companies like JBS. And JBS is the one on my mind all the time because they just got, permission to be on the NYSE. And
so what do you think? Should we play some more? Should we get to my part?
Yeah, let's get to your part.
Let's play a little bit more of that.
A little bit more, Blue, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thank you.
Professional security, then you know where I'm allowed to. I'm exactly where I'm allowed to be by law.
Okay, if you talk to the gentleman,
I wouldn't argue. Let's talk to them.
If you have a complaint, feel free to go and tell them. But it's my duty as a security guard to go ahead and protect the area.
You want to investigate? That's fine, but you can't tell me.
Investigating you. You want to talk to them?
I don't stop arguing with them. Hi, how's it going?
So I'm very interested in bird flu, and I'd like to talk to you guys about what's going on here.
Okay.
So I understand you had a bird flu outbreak back in November.
What we can do on our website.
Oh, this is the guy I met before. Can you tell me he's not the general manager? I met him before.
Okay.
And we have a regulations director who takes care of those questions there.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me? What would you like from us? Why did you drive over here?
Well, I'm just wondering what you were doing.
We're taking photos because we understand a lot of workers are not being properly advised about PPE and about the risk of infection. Bird flu can stay on surfaces for 120 days, 160 days on duck feathers. So we are going to places where depopulations occurred and cleanup occurred and making sure that workers are wearing the proper PPE and documenting that.
And you're doing that for?
We're independent. I'm a veterinarian.
Okay.
I'm very interested in public health. And we communicate with the authorities with concerns that we see, and we talk about this in the media.
You might have seen her work on 60 Minutes a couple weeks ago.
Investigate Midwest.
So that's just what we're out here doing. So if there's no problem, you know, we just want to bring transparency to our food system. We want people to understand how our food is made and what goes into it, who's involved in it. We think that this is very important. And we understand that this company has gotten $10 million in taxpayer subsidized bailouts for exterminating their flocks in response to bird flu. And so we as taxpayers have a right to know how our money is being spent and what businesses our money is supporting.
Yes, and you can find out about that from our website. You can go there and ask our public relations director, and they'll answer any questions about that.
Yeah, so you could see you could find that about on our website. And you know, that he's not so bad. He's media trained. He's probably seen it all. I looked up his resume. He's worked all over the country. He's been doing this a long time, and he knows how to talk to people like us. He's calm. It's easy to talk to guys like that, and you do such a good job of bringing up the facts. I think it's great. I could definitely learn something from that. I love the idea of bringing up the money while you're talking to these people.
Yeah.
That's something.
I think it shows we are being very transparent in what we're doing. We're just taking photos. And when we ask them questions, they're all about like, we're fine answering questions, but no, they're not. Like, go to our website. Let's go to the website and let's call their PR person and see if they'll answer the question, are there birds in that first building? Are any of those birds in that first building dying? Will they answer that question? No, they will not. I guarantee it.
No, they won't answer any of those questions. And it's scary because we're paying for that. Why is my dollar going to that with no oversight? And even if I'd be surprised if Congress could do it. Like, this is just, it's unnerving. I dislike it. And a lot of these companies now, not this one in particular, are run by foreign entities. Like, Smithfield's run by a Chinese company. You think they care about what you think? But we're funding them with our tax dollars. I think a lot of listeners around the Houston area would resonate with that. We give money to Smithfield. They control 25% of the pork products in America. We give them our tax dollars, whether or not you're vegan. And it goes to the Chinese government. The Chinese own it. JBS gave $5 million to Donald Trump, but we gave JBS hundreds of millions of dollars over the last 10 years through our taxes, and they're a Brazilian company. And they've been convicted of bribery, and they've been found to have illegally deforested the Amazon in Brazil. This isn't slander. This is proof. These are things that have been determined in the court of law in multiple countries now, and yet we give them money so that they can bribe politicians. It's a crazy shell game. And yet they want to tell us we can't stand on public roads and take pictures.
We file a lot of Freedom of Information Act requests too. I just got a notice that my most recent Freedom of Information Act request was going to cost around $600 to get. Now they're saying a lot of things are trade secrets, and so we're not able to get that information. So it's becoming more challenging. But if you do want to find out more about this and our work, you can definitely go to ouronor.org and follow us on all the social media, Dr. Crystal Heath and Skyjack Morgan on all of the social media, your YouTube channel.
We only have a couple more minutes left, and I just wanted to give a shout out to an organization that I was reading about to end on a brighter note. It's Corridor Rescue. They work in the northeast part of Houston, helping to give corridor area residents the importance of spay and neutering pets, but also providing free spay and neuter services to corridor area pet owners. They have a facility that can house 38 dogs with 2 veterinary technicians and 3 kennel technicians. They're doing God's work over there. You can find out more about them at corridorrescue.org. On that trip, it isn't all just slaughterhouses and egg facilities. Crystal also, as a veterinarian, trained a bunch of vets about spay and neuter. I watched Crystal and them spay and neuter 50 cats in one day, and it was a lot. So
And that was an easy day for me.
It was an easy day, except you were actually having to train people. That might have added a little bit.
That was a little bit harder than my usual of actually just doing 50 surgeries in a day.
Yeah, it's easier for you to do the surgery than it was to talk it through, I'm guessing. But I want to keep on coming back to this because Spay and Neuter is the most successful campaign in the history of animal rights. And people still argue about it. You still meet people that haven't spay or neutered their pets, people who haven't spay or neutered that, we all know that it's a problem. And it's harrowing to see what these animals go through. And so through TNR programs and organizations like Corridor Rescue, I think maybe you can get involved. Anybody can get involved. They're looking for volunteers all the time, these organizations. So
yeah. And we are reaching the end of the hour, but if you have missed any of the show, you can always hear it again at the archives at kpft.org. But please tune again for Vegan World Radio next Monday night, 9 to 8 p.m. And thank you, Blue, our sound engineer. And do keep listening for more progressive programming here on KPFT 90.1 FM Pacifica Radio in Houston, Texas.
And go to kpft.org and give $100, and they'll give you a Vegan World Radio t-shirt. It's the coolest t-shirt. I wear it every time I go out. Thanks, Blue. Thanks, Crystal.
Thanks, Guy.
More people with compassionate and fewer commandos. Stand up for what's right on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. No more animal rodeos. Standing up for animals is a different kind of fight. When corporations keep the truth far from our sight, but the ones who see the truth can't ever let it go. The truth is alive on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. An animal-free fandango. Climate chaos, a dog and planetary plight. Temperatures reaching annual record heights. If the world ends tomorrow, I'll see you in the afterglow. The postmortem's live on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. The One Health message in stereo. Rocket leaves right now. You've got a ticket for this flight. Did you think we'd let you leave alone? The stars are burning bright. Strap in tight, ready for takeoff. Ignition, here we go. It's Monday night.
KPFT is supported in part by the 53rd Annual Kerrville Folk Festival, a 501c3 nonprofit organization.